Hi, I'm George Pearson. In this Adobe Photoshop video, we'll be removing this problem green screen back here and leaving us with that. Now if you like this video, make sure you click that like button and of course share. Also hit that subscribe button as well so you don't miss out on any future Photoshop videos. And if you want to learn a lot about Photoshop, take a look at my complete training course and you'll find a link for that right down there in the description. Okay, let's get to it. Here we are back at the original image, and you can see lots of problems in here. There's some reflections in here on the green screen, big shadows over here. It's really an awful green screen. There's even green screen spill onto his pants down here into the shoes. So it's a horrible green screen, which makes it a bit more difficult to do this. Normally with a nice clean screen with very minimal stuff in here, you can remove the background just by going up here to select, come down to color range right there, and this will usually give you a pretty good selection. You can see even here it's not getting anywhere near what we need. Even if I brought my fuzziness up, it begins to cut in on the figure because of all that green spill we have. So this tool, even though it will normally work on a clean green screen, it's not working for us here on this green screen. So let's go ahead and cancel that. Instead, I'll be using the magic wand tool, back to the old-fashioned average magic wand. Click on the left option, the new selection, set the averaging to 5 by 5, that should do it, and we'll just start making selections. But first, let's make a copy of our background layer. Drag it down to the new layer button right there and hide the original. That's just a safety, just in case. Okay, here's our background, and I'll begin by clicking in anywhere, nice smooth area. Let's now switch over to the add to selection option, and we'll begin walking this around and adding into our selection. Now notice that I have this set at contiguous right there. That means that if I click on a spot here, it's only going to select what is touching that selection. So it kind of limits the selection a little bit, makes it a bit easier to control the selection. Let's just get this little spot right there. We'll work our way up around. There's little spots, you can try to grab those like that. Sometimes it's hard to do. If there is anything left like these little spots here, simply switch over to a different selection tool. I'll use the polygonal lasso tool. And I'll do a little lasso right around those spots and remove those. Okay, now we want to convert this into a layer mask using the layer mask button, but we want the image selected and not the background. Easy to do. Just come down to the layer mask, hold the Alt key down and click on the layer mask, and that gives you an inverted layer mask, which gives us this. Now I can already see some problems. There's a little bit of a green spill right down in here, right down in there as well. And I know from before on testing this that we have some problems up here right around the edge of the fingers, right there, a little bit right here, a little bit right there, just a bit of that green showing in here and right down there. Didn't quite catch that little thin spots with the layer mask and a little bit right up in here as well. We can fix those. Make sure on the layer mask side, I'll grab the polygonal lasso tool. I have my feathering set at 1 pixel. And I'll just come in here and make just a little selection right around that spot. And grab the paintbrush, set it black. It's a pretty small size, 3. That's good enough for this. Just paint that out and then deselect. And I'll just move down and catch those couple of spots in here between these fingers. There's little thin spots that just weren't grabbed by the magic wand. And there we go. That takes care of that one. And let's deselect that. And up here I think I can just paint that in by hand, just like that's all it needs. Okay, right down here, a little bit right in there. You bring my brush all the way down to 1 pixel. And just kind of carefully come in here and catch that little bit right in there. Okay, that takes care of that. Now let's look at our other little problems. There's a little bit of a rough edge right along in here on that finger. You get that sometimes with the magic wand. It's a little bit of a greenish edge around the edge in here as well. Some messy stuff right there. I think there's just a few little hairs sticking out that were caught. Let's just get those with the tool up here as well. Just the paintbrush. 7 pixels is pretty good. Still on black. I'm still on the layer mask. And I'll just freehand this. Just come down and just kind of paint those out. The nice thing about working on the layer mask is if I mess up, I can always go back and clean it out again. Okay, looks pretty good. I'll grab the space bar here and let's just move around. This is kind of a green edge showing in there around a lot of the image. There's green on the watch. We'll take care of that in a later step. A little bit right here. I can catch that with the layer mask. There we go. So right now I'm looking for layer mask issues. We'll take care of this little green spill in just a bit. Okay, see here the layer mask actually cut into the figure a little bit. So I'll switch my colors to white and let's paint that back out again. There we go. Restoring some of that bit of the leg there where the layer mask came in too far. Okay, space bar again and we'll continue on down. That all looks good. Right in here the layer mask missed that, so back to our black. And I'll bring my brush size way down. I'll set it at 2 pixels. That's a bit too large still. 1 pixel. And just carefully paint this in. Real small, real hard to catch that. But that's good enough for there. Okay. Let's just back out a couple of notches. A little bit of green spill around here. Again, we'll take care of that in just a bit. Little problem right there. I think a larger brush on that will work. Same thing, I'm just still working on the layer mask. And let's just paint that out. That's good. Back out a couple of notches again. And we'll finish our walk around the image here looking for layer mask problems. That all looks fine. That looks good. Okay, so the layer mask looks clean. It's just a little bit of a hint of green along the edges. Now you can try to remove some of this green and see how well we do. We'll even take a look at this kind of green spill down here. This is the biggest problem on the green spill. But I think we can minimize that, bring that down a bit with an adjustment layer. So go up here to layer, come down to new adjustment layer and hue saturation. Now it says use previous layer to create clipping mask. Make sure that's selected, choose OK. That just links this adjustment to this one layer. Doesn't actually matter here, but it's a nice habit to be in. If you're working with just one layer, just go ahead and link that. Where it says master, click on that and come down here to greens. And we can try to minimize the greens by removing the saturation from the greens. I'll just push this to the left. And so just desaturate the greens. Now it worked out well along here. That looks good. Didn't really work in here that well. Kind of worked there a little bit, worked down here. It helped down here a little bit. Let's just see how this looks with and without. That really helped along the shoe, so that's good. It was a different technique for this stuff in here. Hold the space bar down. Let's move it up again. Again, didn't do anything in there really. But it helped on the edges. We've taken care of all of that kind of green right along those edges. So the edges are now nice and clean. And a little bit showing on the hair there. So there's our first step on that. That helped a bit. It's not perfect yet. Let's now come back down to the image layer. Now here's where we'll be actually working on the image layer itself. One of the reasons why I made a duplicate and we're working on a duplicate. Just in case we mess up, we can always go back to our original. I'll zoom in here on the hair. So there's just a little bit of green showing through there. Now the desaturate up here worked for us on the green. We can do the same trick here, but do it very, very specific. And just go over here to this tool. This is the sponge tool right there. Set that at desaturate. I have my flow rate set at 75. And just a small brush, 14 right there. And make sure you're on the image side. and just paint right over those green spots in there. We're just removing the color from those. Since we're on black hair, it just goes black or gray, and it looks just fine. So I'm just removing the color. And you can go around the whole image and desaturate as much as you can on these little edges like this. Just be careful of where it is you're working. Sometimes this trick doesn't work. Again, it depends upon what it is you're on top of. And just kind of moving along here and desaturating. It's a little bit right in here. I think I can do that on the edge of the ear. That'll be okay. That won't really look bad if that goes desaturated. There we go. It also depends upon what your background is going to be. If you're going onto a background that has green in it, then this step probably isn't needed, because the little bit of green that's remaining here will just blend right in with your other green. Also, if it's kind of a greenish blue background, again, it'll just blend right in, and this will be okay. Now, his jacket is basically a blue-gray. It's very gray back here, so I can really desaturate this, and that's just fine. See, there's a little bit of a roughness right in there from the magic wand. We'll take care of that in just a moment here. Once we finish this step. Okay, now I'm just going along and looking for anything that's kind of green that I can fix in here. Now down here, this greenish stuff, I can't really do this. If I come in here and do that, it looks weird because it changes the color from this color to that color. So that doesn't work. I'm going to just use the Control Alt and Z keyboard shortcut and back out of that. We'll fix that with a different technique. Now right along the edge I can get a little bit of that, but that's not that critical. So I'll leave the pants alone here. We'll come back to those in just a bit. Now the problem with the pants, and why we couldn't use the adjustment layer up here, is that there's a lot of yellow in here. If I tried to remove this green by taking some of the yellow out, I'd change the color of the yellow pants as well. So because they're very similar in color, we need a different technique for that. Okay, a little spot right here where the layer mask missed. So back to our layer mask side. Let's go back to our layer mask brush in here, and I want this in white. And let's just replace that bit of pant leg right in there. I think that's pretty close. Okay, down here a little bit of green showing right down in there. Again, it's a good spot for the desaturate brush. Make sure on the image side, and let's just desaturate that out and remove that bit of green. Now again, if you have a cleaner green screen, you'll have less of these kinds of problems to deal with. But if you have these problems, it's nice to know there are several techniques you can use to come in and clean that stuff out. This is one of the nicest ones, is the sponge tool. To just desaturate little specific spots, like right around that lace right in there. Okay, drawing the pants again, and let's get around this shoe. A little bit of green right around that shadow area. It was just very, very dark in there, so the magic wand didn't grab that real dark area. So most of the green in the shoe was taken care of with the adjustment layer, and there's a little bit of this on the actual image side to remove that last little bit of green. Same thing up around the shoelaces up here. That all looks good. Leave the pants alone for now. There's a little bit in here. You can probably just do this. That'll look okay. There we go, because there's a lot of gray in that jacket anyway. Now here's where this tool really works out well, and that's on this watch. That green stuff on the watch, just come in and desaturate that. It's a silver watch, so if it goes black and white, it looks just fine. So that solves that little problem. Okay, that takes care of that. Let's now take care of the softening up our edge just a little bit. We'll do that right on the layer mask. Go over here to the right hand side. We can kind of see the jagged edge right in there. So layer mask side, go up here to filter, come down to blur and the Gaussian blur right there. Now push this clear to the left and then move it just one-tenth of a spot at a time to the right, just up until you just don't see that edge, that kind of jagged edge. Like it looks like about 0.5 or 0.6 is pretty good. Just barely soften up that edge, just a little bit, not too much. Takes care of that. Okay, now we're really just left with the pants. Let's go ahead and see how that looks. Everything else is looking just fine, but there's a lot of green in the pants in here. Now we can fix this using a different technique. Go here to the color side again. Grab the polygonal lasso tool. Let's just make a quick selection right around the pants. It doesn't need to be really accurate, but fairly close is okay. And I'm only coming to the part that really has that problem, and I'm kind of following in here, following a little crease line in there. Now that I have that selected, let's go up to Image, Adjustments, and Replace Color. Now in here, I'll click right into that green spot right there. You see it's a real nice army kind of a green. Let's now shift the hue a little bit away and make that more of a yellow as opposed to a green. You can see if I go real far, you can see that in there. Just kind of knocking the green out of it. Like that. I can bring my saturation down just a little bit and lighten that up a little bit, and we can really get that to kind of fade away. Now I can increase how far that goes by bringing up the fuzziness level, and we should be able to take out most of that green just by doing this without really touching the other colors that much. This actually shows you a lot more than we're really working with over here. So it's just a matter of kind of working back and forth with these adjustments to minimize that green spill effect, and that's pretty good. Maybe a little less saturation, I think. And a little shift on the hue. And that's pretty good. It's really just hiding that. If you want to add more, just grab the little plus eyedropper right there and just add in the next section. Now I'll add that in as well. And there we go. It takes care of all the green in that one pant leg. Choose OK. And then deselect. Looks good. Do the same thing over here on this pant leg. Again, grab the lasso tools, come right around the leg, just outside the cuff down here, up around this side, and it's right over in there. So I'm just going to follow this crease through here just in case. It just helps to hide that edge. Do the exact same thing over here. Image, come down to Adjustments, come down to Replace Color, and then click on some of that green stuff right in there. Same trick, pull your hue over until you get rid of that green effect, and then balance things out with the saturation and the lightness. And then adjust your fuzziness to help spread that out a little bit. Go to the plus right there, plus eyedropper, and add in just a little bit more if you see any more in there, and that looks good. Choose OK, and then deselect. We've gotten rid of that green spill in there by being very selective on that color change. So we didn't hurt the yellowness of our pant leg at all, but we got rid of that green effect. Okay, so now go to Fit Screen, and there we go. Nice, clean green screen fix just by using these tools. I could go a little bit further on this. There's a little bit in here I could maybe do with that same trick we just did, maybe right up in here a little bit more, remove some of that. So you can, take some more time and get really, really close on this, but that's all the basics in there, just a combination of using different tools. Now, if you have a really bad background like this, again, I prefer using the magic wand for that and working in that way. If it's a very even tone, green screen, then go ahead and just try this one up here. Just use the, there we go, color range right there. That's actually a very, very good tool, but it works best with a more even color. So something like this, really bad, Magic Wand may be the better way to go. So there you go. That's removing green screen from behind a figure. Don't forget to check out my Photoshop training courses, and again, you'll find a link for that right down there in the description. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you found it useful. If you like this video, click on the like button below to let others know. You can click the subscribe button so you don't miss any of my videos in the future. I'm frequently uploading new training videos. Don't forget to check out my website at howtogurus.com.